Saudi Arabia, a kingdom with a complex human rights landscape, is currently experiencing an evolution in its human rights practices. Historically, the country has faced criticism for human rights abuses, including restrictions on freedom of expression, lack of women's rights, and use of the death penalty. In recent years, there have been instances of mass executions, including the execution of 81 people in March 2023, many of whom were from the Shia community. Concerns have been raised about the fairness of trials and the judicial process in these cases. The country's treatment of migrant workers also remains a significant issue. Despite recent reforms, the kafala, visa sponsorship system, still gives employers excessive control over workers' legal status and mobility, leading to various abuses, including forced labor. Furthermore, Saudi authorities have faced allegations of corruption, with opaque methods in dealing with misappropriated assets and potential politicization of anti-corruption efforts. The functioning of the government lacks transparency, especially regarding state finances and decision-making processes. The media in Saudi Arabia is heavily controlled by the government, with strict laws criminalizing criticism of officials and religious leaders. The murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018 highlighted the risks faced by journalists and the lack of accountability for such actions. The situation for women in Saudi Arabia is complex. While there have been reforms such as allowing women to drive and travel without a male guardian's permission, discriminatory practices still exist under the guardianship system. Civil society in Saudi Arabia faces significant repression, with activists and human rights defenders often facing arbitrary arrests and long prison sentences. A people's vision for reform in Saudi Arabia has been articulated by activists, outlining principles for a rights-respecting society. But the government's response has been to intensify crackdowns. There are also concerns about the country's involvement in the conflict in Yemen, with reports of airstrikes causing civilian casualties and contributing to a humanitarian crisis. Efforts to address these human rights issues are often met with resistance from the government, which maintains a strong hold on power and suppresses dissent. Internationally, Saudi Arabia's human rights record has attracted scrutiny and criticism. Various human rights organizations have called for the country to make substantial reforms to improve its human rights situation. The Saudi government, however, has often defended its practices by citing cultural and religious norms, arguing for the respect of its sovereignty in these matters. The country has made some progress in certain areas, such as economic reforms under Vision 2030, which aims to diversify the economy and reduce dependency on oil. However, these economic reforms have not been matched by corresponding improvements in human rights. The situation of stateless persons in Saudi Arabia is also a matter of concern, with limited rights and access to services for these individuals. Saudi Arabia's legal system, based on Islamic law, imposes harsh penalties for various offenses, including the death penalty for crimes like murder and drug trafficking, often after unfair trials. The country's approach to human rights is often characterized by a balance between maintaining traditional values and responding to international pressure for reform. The impact of these human rights issues is widespread, affecting not only the citizens of Saudi Arabia but also the millions of expatriates and migrant workers living in the country. The future of human rights in Saudi Arabia remains uncertain, with ongoing tensions between traditionalist elements within the society and those pushing for reform. In conclusion, while there have been some positive steps towards reform, significant challenges remain in the evolution of human rights in Saudi Arabia. The international community continues to watch and engage with the kingdom in hopes of seeing further progress. Thank you for watching this exploration of human rights in Saudi Arabia. If you found this information insightful, please like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses on important global issues.